Hello, everyone. Just kidding. That's cringe. I don't like it. I'm so sorry. Hello, everyone. This is Bringonthechaos Glizzy for another What If. What if Naruto reincarnated and became a loving father? Before we start, can you like and subscribe for more What If? And if you want this, more part like this, please comment 3 hearts. And you can also say the fanfic that you want in the comment description below. And before we start, you can check out the author in the description below. You know, check out his stuff. He has so many. You can check out probably a lot. There's a lot of fan fiction that he made. So, I hope you enjoy. Without further ado, let's just get started.
Chapter 9. Speech. Thought. Attacked species. Chapter 9. The trap. Thought. Attacked species. Chapter 9. The trap. Following after Giorno, Issei tilted his head as the duo entered the threshold of the Uzumaki household. So Giorno, why exactly are we coming to the house? The younger of the two asked with curiosity in his voice. Smiling and approaching the area that Kurama used as a makeshift lab, the second in command of the Passion merely looked over his shoulder to Issei. Well, I promised Kurama that I would assist him with a small project. So we are devoting some of our time today with helping him. Oh, I see. What's the project, if you don't mind me asking? Kurama wants to create an actual physical body to use for himself. Though in my opinion he really doesn't need one all that much, but Kurama has always been kind to me and my sister growing up. He's a part of our family if he wants to admit that or not. So if he wants a physical body, I'll do anything I can to help him. Issei smiled and pumped his arms with vigor. I totally understand and I'll do all I can to help. God, you're so fucking loud. I'm trying to sleep. Leaping into the air in fear, Issei yelped loudly and trembled as he looked down at the dimly lit staircase that led to the fox's domain. Maybe we should leave Kurama alone. Giorno laughed and began to slowly descend the stairs to Kurama's lab. Oh, don't worry, Issei, Kurama is always a little grumpy. If you say so. The younger of the two mumbled apprehensively, while he followed closely behind. Coming down into the basement of the house, Issei found the space in absolute disarray. As documents with symbols he didn't recognize were thrown across the floor, while dozens of whiteboards were covered with the same symbols and even some rather complex equations. Wow, you've been busy since the last time I've been down here, Lord Kurama. Issei gasped in surprise, while he found the wolf-sized fox stretching his limbs from across the room. I mean, what is all this strange writing? Sighing to himself and glancing to the pervert, Kurama slowly stalked forward. It's mainly fuinjutsu from my dimension. It's a rather intricate art that has near limitless applications. I'm currently bouncing between formulating ideas for my little project along with crafting a few intermediate courses for Asia. Since she has asked me to teach her all I know of the art. She's taken a real shine to fuinjutsu and even genjutsu, but I'm not surprised as it fits rather well with her sly and cunning personality along with her pacifist nature. Issei nodded with a grin. That does sound like Lady Asia. The brunette began, while walking to a whiteboard and pointing to a few symbols. So this is fuinjutsu. Kurama's eye twitched in annoyance. Those are my notes that I wrote in cursive. Seriously, how dense are you? You're even dumber than Naruto. The fox yelled, while looking over to Giorno. Kid, why did you even bring this moron with you? Giorno merely sighed and rested his hands on his hips. Issei isn't that bad, Kurama. Besides, father asked me to help mentor Issei and show him the ropes of being in our organization. So please try and be nice. Kurama merely stuck his nose high into the air and walked off. Fine, I'll be civil with the idiot. I mean, he at least isn't as bad as your dad. Nor is he as distracting or destructive. Issei laughed nervously. Hee hee, thanks. It wasn't much of a compliment. Kurama replied in a gruff voice, while he started to get to work. But tell me, Giorno, how goes the passion? Still placing all hands on deck with the Kokobile situation. At first yes, but it seems after we eliminated the fallen angels in town under his charge he grew cautious. So I've mainly had Abakio working solo on finding Kokobile and discovering his plans. So far we haven't found anything, but if the fallen angels are as arrogant as the other factions, I'm sure his pride will result in us catching on to him. Yes, I'm sure you're right, but let's get to war. Oh Kurama. The sing-song voice of Asia cut in loudly, while the bubbly blonde could be found skipping down the stairs. Meanwhile, not too far behind Asia was Naruto, who had a rather hard and serious face. Lady Asia and Dad. Issei shouted in surprise, as he looked at the two individuals. I didn't know you were on your way home yet. Asia waved her peerage member off and giggled. Well, some interesting things have happened and Daddy has gone and done what he does best. Kurama scoffed at that declaration. What, be an idiot? Asia shook her head, but before she could get a word in, Naruto walked forward and rested a hand on his daughter's shoulder to silence her. Then by glancing at Kurama with a serious and blank expression, he simply nudged his head to the exit. Let's talk in private, Kurama. I need your counsel. With that being said, the fox merely nodded and didn't respond with his normal backhanded comments. Instead, he simply followed Naruto upstairs to meet in private. This of course left Issei and Giorno in confusion, the latter of whom looked over to his little sister for answers. Asia, what's going on? Her eyes wandering about, Asia paid more attention to Kurama's work rather than her brother. Well, Daddy is finally getting involved with the devil faction. I'm not sure what he is currently thinking, but I'm sure he is informing Kurama on the situation and making plans moving forward. I do know that Daddy along with myself and a few others will be going to the underworld. Though I think Daddy wants you to stay here and keep things moving forward with the passion. After all, Daddy only trusts you to lead the organization in his absence. I see, that makes a lot of sense. I'm sure he will properly inform me once he and Kurama are done with their talk. Giorno theorized, while Asia merely nodded and rubbed her chin. Yeah, most likely. The girl mumbled in an uninterested voice, while finally turning to her brother. Tell me something, Giorno, are you making a body for Kurama? Yes, but how could you tell? The oldest of the siblings asked in surprise. Asia merely pointed to a whiteboard with little emotion. It literally says formulas to make Kurama a body in bold letters. I can read, Giorno, I'm not dense like Issei. Making a body for Kurama. Yes, but how could you tell? The oldest of the siblings asked in surprise. Asia merely pointed to a whiteboard with little emotion. It literally says formulas to make Kurama a body in bold letters. I can read, Giorno, I'm not dense like Issei. Said pervert face faltered, while Giorno merely laughed at his expense. Besides, I have some beginner knowledge of fuinjutsu. So I can tell what some of this stuff is, but I have a better idea. Asia then turned to the whiteboard and the pattern of the Sharingan spun to life within her eyes. Then with a calculated gaze she began to visually memorize every single detail that Kurama had written so far before approaching the whiteboard with a marker in hand. Now let's see here if my memory is right. We can do away with this. Then add this there along with this and finish off with a little bit of that. Issei tilted his head in confusion, while he watched Asia erase and write new symbols he didn't recognize. Giorno on the other hand stepped forward with shock on his face. Asia, what are you doing to Kurama's work? He may get upset if you mess something up. The oldest of the siblings pointed out, while his younger sister merely turned around with a devilish grin. One that instantly sent chills down Issei and even Giorno's spine. Oh, that's okay, big brother. Kurama won't know anything about this. Though let me share a secret with you. Asia began, as she gave her brother an ice smile that concealed her Sharingan. Then slowly inching forward she began to whisper something softly into her brother's ear. A secret that caused Giorno to stagger backwards in both fear and surprise. Asia. You wouldn't, Kurama would never forgive you. I don't think I'm comfortable with this at all. Oh, he will be fine, besides it will be really funny. Asia then opened her eyes, which were back to the normal color. And of course you can silly. After all I told you my plans, so you're an accomplice now. Though you could go against me, but you wouldn't do that. Would you, big brother? Giorno slightly twitched as he looked down at his little sister with a nervous expression. Considering the cold and eerie tone of his sister's last question was enough to persuade his allegiance. Of course I wouldn't. Asia clapped her hands together and laughed. Wonderful. Oh, and Issei, if you mention anything you may have heard to Daddy or Kurama, it won't end well for you. Being the innocent bystander, Issei merely saluted his king with a trembling hand. I would never, Lady Asia. I am always on your side. I'm glad to hear that, but I suggest that you pack a few things. As I'll be taking both you and Zenevia with me as my personal guard during our time in the underworld. So get ready for our trip. Understood, Lady Asia. Giorno sighed and shook his head. Well, at least this time your pranks are directed at Kurama and not father. Asia giggled and swayed back and forth, while her hands were folded behind her back. Now who said I didn't already have some mischief lined up for Daddy later tonight? Because I don't recall saying such things. With Naruto and Kurama. And that's our current situation. Naruto finished in a rather calm voice, as he just retold the past events that transpired with Rias and her group of devils to Kurama. The latter of whom merely nodded and absorbed all the information given to him. So this Rias Gremory is locked into a marriage contract with another devil and you wish to help her. It's characteristically noble of you, but do we honestly have to waste our time with the politics of devils? I think so. Naruto replied simply, while he leaned back onto his personal desk. For starters, I like helping those in need, always have and always will, but my reasons stretch far beyond that. See, Rias is the younger sister of one of the four great Satans, namely the Satan Lucifer Syrax. However, you know this already and can probably assume helping her would earn his favor and cooperation. Yes, you do have a point, but why do I feel there is something else? Because there is, and that something is the reason I want your opinion on the matter. Kurama kept a neutral expression. Well, don't leave me guessing. Naruto sighed. Well, according to Venelana Gremory, The easiest and most civil solution to end this marriage contract that is available to us is a rating game. An idea I am completely for, as the devils view humans as a weaker subpar race and would easily underestimate us and pay the price. Well, that and if we utterly annihilate and humiliate a high-class devil, their views of humans and our faction completely changes. Kurama cut in with a large toothy grin. I see where you're getting at, Naruto, as talks with the devils wouldn't boast too well for us since we wouldn't be taken serious. However, a public display of power would completely change their perspective. So you see the larger picture, but now gets to the part where I need your input. Considering it goes without saying I could wipe the floor with whatever devil they place against me, but as the leader and strongest member of our faction, I want my power to be a complete unknown to every single devil. Instead of me doing the fighting, I want a weaker member of our group to defeat and humiliate this devil, leaving the devils asking if the weaker members of humanity are that powerful. Just how strong is their leader? I like where you're going, as it would instill a sense of fear and caution, leaving the devils to tread lightly around you and be more inclined to listen to your ideals and cooperate with our organization. Though I'm certain you have who you wish to represent you picked out. So tell me, who is your chosen champion? Giorno perhaps, or maybe one of the lower capos of the organization? Naruto smiled and folded his arms over his chest. I've decided to pick Asia. Kurama was completely dumbfounded. Asia? You want Asia to fight a devil? She's just recently started genjutsu and fuinjutsu training. Plus, if you haven't forgotten, Mr. Father of the Year, your daughter is a pacifist. Which is why Asia is perfect. I mean, nothing screams humiliation and defeat more than losing to a little girl who doesn't even throw a punch. Besides, she won't be alone, Kurama. It will be a rating game and she will have some of her peerage with her to help. I can't use Giorno and the others, as they are needed on Earth to run the passion and make sure no factions try to take over in my absence. However, I believe Asia, Xenovier and Issei could be a killer three-man cell. In fact, under my tutelage and your assistance, I'm gonna turn them into the new and improved Team 7. So you want to train those three to fight a high-class devil along with his entire peerage? Does Asia or the other two even know about this? Well, no, but I'll tell them before we leave. Kurama sighed. Well, how long do we have to train them? We leave for the underworld tomorrow. So we have no time to train them. Of course we do. Our first meeting will be to set the challenge and then we prepare those three with some rigorous training. Kurama simply closed his eyes and thought to himself for a moment, but after a short silence he looked back to Naruto. It's not the worst idea you've had, but it has its own merit. Besides, those three are in need of serious training. So perhaps the weight of the situation would push them to grow. Naruto smirked. So you're for my plan? For now, but you should at least tell Asia and the others. Worst case scenario, they are against your idea and I'll fight the devil. Yeah, you're right, I won't force Asia into anything against her will. I love my daughter too much to do something like. We will talk to Asia and the other two later tonight at dinner and purpose the idea. If they say no, then I guess you can go turn the devil into a chew toy. Hey, I'd be delighted too. Later that night. It was a few hours later and Naruto was more on edge than usual. Currently the strongest man alive was making his final preparations for dinner, but that wasn't what had him so nervous. See, Asia was helping her father with cooking tonight's meal, but during the entire time she was skipping, humming and radiating an overflowing amount of joy. All of which were clear signs that something bad was on the horizon for Naruto. Considering Asia was normally a very bright and cheery person, but when she got like this it always meant she had a scheme in the works. So that's why Naruto was practically shaking once he opened the pot to stir the food cooking inside, as he was constantly waiting for the inevitable prank to strike. However, he released his near 100th sigh of relief when he realized the pot wasn't rigged with some sort of prank. "Daddy!" Asia chirped in a loud and happy voice, which made Naruto jump in surprise and turn on his heels to face his daughter. "Why yes, sweetie," Naruto began, as he looked down at the swaying bubbly blonde. "I've finished all my tasks and Xenavia is setting the table. So would you like me to tell everyone that dinner is almost ready?" Shaking himself out of his fear, Naruto nodded with a nervous laugh. "That's a wonderful idea, Asia, and thank you for helping Daddy with dinner." Asia grinned and shot forward and hugged her father. "Don't mention it, Daddy. When I was living away from home I missed cooking with you. So it makes me really happy that we get to spend time together again. Plus I haven't had your super special dish in years. I'm really excited." Naruto smiled as he softly patted his daughter's backside. He truly loved his precious daughter and enjoyed every moment he got to spend with her. In fact, as they shared their small moment, Naruto began to think he didn't give his daughter enough credit. Maybe she didn't have anything planned and she was just happy because she got to be with her dad. "I feel the same way, princess." Asia giggled and backward away from her father. "Plus I want this dinner to be real yummy for your secret surprise." Naruto blinked once. Then twice. Before realizing he was right to be afraid, as he has raised a monster. One that couldn't be stopped. "Well, I'll get everyone ready for dinner," Asia declared before skipping away from her father's view. "Out of every foe I've faced, none scare me more than my own teenage daughter." Naruto mumbled softly, as he turned around and rested his hands onto the kitchen counter. "You know this is all your fault. You're the one who raised her, while always allowing and even at times promoting her behavior." The voice of Kurama commented, while he stalked into the kitchen. "Honestly, if you would lay your foot down she wouldn't be this bad." "Well, it's cute when she pranks other people," Naruto countered before sulking. "Besides, Aurora would always be the stern one to discipline the children and I would be the fun parent to cheer them up. I'm no good at being stern with either of the kids. I mean, what if I say something and they hate me or never talk to me again?" Well, I guess that does explain why Giorno isn't like Asia, as at least Aurora had proper time to help raise him. "Honestly, you're so worthless you'll need a few new mates to help raise Asia and fix the years of your god-awful parenting." "My parenting isn't that bad," Naruto argued with a pout. "You're a loving father who devotes everything he has to his children and you would die for them both. I'll give you that much, but you're awful at discipline and placing your foot down. You're a good dad, but a mediocre parent." Naruto lowered his head and sighed. "I'm trying my best here. I'm a single dad who is trying to obtain world peace, while raising a teenage daughter. Not to mention that fact that I was raised as an orphan and have no clue how to be a proper father. None of this is easy." "I never said it was, Naruto, but maybe you should start thinking of finding a new mate to help you with all your problems. Since from my perspective you've been doing a rather shoddy job on your own." So maybe a new wife could help fill the hole that Aurora left. Naruto rolled his eyes. Yeah, like I have time to date, and besides nobody could replace Aurora. Kurama sighed and turned around. You don't have to find a replacement for Aurora. Just someone who you care for and could survive your daughter. After all, I'm sure Aurora would want you to find someone to find happiness with again. That, and also pick up the slack from your shitty parenting. Naruto shook his head and scratched his temple, while Kurama walked off. I can never tell if he is trying to help me or just uses moments like this to get free insults in. Though I wonder if he is right. Should I be looking for a new wife? However, Naruto didn't have long to dwell over his own thoughts due to the doorbell sounding off throughout the house. Oh, our guests are here. The voice of Asia shouted in pure glee in the next room. Hearing his daughter, Naruto stumbled out of the kitchen in disbelief. Making it near Asia just in time to see the girl open the door to reveal Venelana and Rias Gremory waiting at their doorstep. Both of whom were accompanied by Rias' entire peerage. What is going on? Naruto mumbled softly, as he watched Asia exchange pleasantries with Venelana. Stopping right beside Naruto, Xenavia looked to the man with a blank expression. When you left to tell Kurama of the developments with the devils. Asia asked me to extend a dinner invitation to the Gremory household and their servants. She also made it very clear that I wasn't to tell you and ruin the surprise. Naruto's eye twitched in annoyance and he glared at the backside of his daughter's head. The latter of whom was busy greeting each and every guest with an overwhelming amount of joy. The worst part is, Naruto began softly, while only Xenavia could hear him. Knowing my daughter, her schemes don't end here. Oh, I know. Xenavia replied in a dry voice, while she walked off without saying anything else. Why that? Daddy. Asia called out happily. Come over here and greet our guests. Sighing to himself and nodding his head, Naruto walked forward with a smile and held a hand out to Venelana. Welcome to our humble little home, I'm glad you were able to join us for dinner. Naruto then turned robotically to Asia and gritted his teeth. It's such a lovely surprise. Asia giggled and Venelana returned Naruto's smile and laughed. Thank you for inviting us to your household. I'm eager to see how human life differs from our own. I'm sure you'll find we are not all that different from any of you. Naruto then looked down to the children accompanying Venelana. Rias, it's good to see you as well, but forgive me for not knowing your peerage. Rias nodded and held a hand out to her servants. My apologies, allow me to introduce my peerage. This is my Queen Akano Hamejima, my Rook Koneko Tuju, and last but certainly not least my Knight Yuto Kiba. Well, it's nice to officially meet you all, as you know I'm Asia's dad. Though you can just call me Naruto if you would like. You've already met Xenavia and Griselda, but there is currently 2 other people in the house. Before you even try, I am perfectly capable of introducing myself. Kurama spoke up, as the fox approached the group of devils. I've gone by many names, but you may refer to me as Lord Kurama or Kurama the Great. Naruto pinched his eyes together and took a deep breath, while everyone else focused on the talking fox. How interesting. Venelana commented softly, while she looked at Kurama. He doesn't appear to be a yokai, but he's clearly not anything I've seen before. Is he some rare type of familiar or just a strange experiment? Nah, he's just a useless fox from my dimension, Naruto admitted in an off-handed voice. Who are you calling useless? Asia puffed out her cheeks and pointed at Naruto and Kurama. No fighting, you two. We have guests. Hey, what's all the commotion in here? Issei yelled out, while he walked out and froze in place. Considering he was just as surprised to see Rias as she was to see him. Whoa, I didn't know we were having Rias over, Dad. Dad. Rias along with her entire peerage yelled loudly, while exchanging looks between Naruto and Issei. Wait, that perverted loser is your brother? Koneko asked, while looking to Asia for answers. Asia merely answered with an upbeat yes, while Akano scratched her cheek. But how is that possible? It's a rather long story. Why don't we all head to the dinner table and we can talk? Naruto offered, while holding his hands for the devils to walk further into the house. That sounds wonderful. Venolana began, while she gently wrapped her hands around Naruto's large biceps and gave the man a tight squeeze. Please show the way, Naruto. Blushing hard, Naruto led Venolana to the kitchen table where he showed the woman to an open seat. Meanwhile, Zenobia and Issei both followed Naruto and took a seat at the table. Asia on the other hand turned to Rias and grinned. I think your mom is thirsting after my daddy. The young blonde whispered with a giggle, which caused Rias to blush. How fun. How fun indeed. Akano added in, which only added to the crimson tint on Rias' cheeks. You think they'll have sex later? Can you two stop? It's highly inappropriate to talk in such ways about our parents. Rias began sternly, while folding her arms over her chest in protest. No one will be thirsting for anyone here tonight. Well, I'm sorry to break it to you, Rias, but my goal here tonight is to get your mom hooked on the idea of having a relationship with my daddy. I've already got Griselda wanting to be my new mommy, and after dinner so will your mom. Oh, I'm building the most perfect mommy harem. Asia explained with a large grin. Actually, I even bet after I snap my trap I'll have you on my side of trying to get our parents together. Rias huffed in defiance. I doubt it, besides my mother is a very distinguished member of the underworld. She would never have a relationship with a human. That's where you're wrong, sister to be. Asia giggled in a playful voice. Your mom is already interested in my daddy for how he wants to selfishly help you. That's point number one for my daddy. However, daddy is also incredibly powerful in a literal and figurative sense with his strength and position in his organization. Again, more points that make my daddy an appealing choice for a single woman. Though the nail in the coffin is I had my daddy make his specialty for dinner tonight because I planned on having your mom over to taste his food. See, recall back to that treat I made on my first day of school and how it made you feel. Then know my daddy is capable of making something that is beyond description. Trust me, Rias, tonight is going to be a night you won't forget. You have to be kidding me. Do you know how ridiculous your entire plan sounds? Rias asked. Asia laughed in response and reached out to poke Rias on the nose. Oh sister dearest, you're too adorable if you think that is all I have planned. We are already in step 3 out of 7. You should try harder to keep up, but let me worry about getting our parents together. For now let's just go enjoy a nice family dinner. Rias watched with a stunned expression as Asia turned on her heels and began to happily skip away. Oh, I like her, and here I thought we were supposed to be the devils. Akano commented with a laugh. She's definitely not as innocent as she lets on. Koneko pointed out in a dry voice. At least her intentions are somewhat pure. Kiba added in. You brats are just lucky she's keeping her energy towards getting her idiot father together with those women. Kurama explained to the young devils, as he walked past them to rest on a sofa. Trust me when I say that little Vixen is dangerous when she is determined to do something. She has the brains of her grandfather, the willpower of her grandmother, and unpredictableness of her father wrapped in one. Rias looked to the strange fox with a slightly nervous gaze, as she thought over his words. Though after a moment she motioned for her peerage to follow her. Come on guys, let's join everyone for dinner. The crimson-haired devil began, as she led everyone to the dining table. Venelana, seeing her daughter approaching the table, smiled and offered an empty seat to her side for Rias. The latter of whom accepted the seat by her mother with a calm expression, while Akano, Koneko and Kiba took the next 3 seats by Rias. Then from across Kiba was Issei, who had an empty seat by his side, as no one wished to sit by the pervert, but continuing on was Zenevia, Asia and then Griselda. Finally at the head of the table was an empty seat, since Naruto was busy with fetching everyone's meal. Leaving the table in an awkward silence, as Griselda gave Venelana a hard stare. Meanwhile the devil returned the look with a rather friendly, but uninterested smile. Though those were not the only silent showdowns going on at the table. Considering Rias was practically glaring a hole into Asia's skull, but the latter of the two didn't seem to care one bit. Instead she just kept a rather amused smile on her face, which caused Akano to giggle at the tension and Zenevia to study both devils to try and understand what the situation was. Koneko on the other hand was glaring at Issei, as she saw the boy obviously checking out Rias and Akano. In fact the entire situation looked like a disaster just waiting to happen, but luckily for everyone not 1 or 2, but 10 Narutos came into the room each with a bowl in hand. What in the... Rias mumbled in disbelief, while she watched one of the 10 take a seat at the table and the rest hand deliver a covered bowl before each person at the table. Then just as fast as they appeared each one disappeared in a cloud of smoke. You can make clones? Venelana asked with curiosity in her voice. I didn't know humans were capable of such advanced techniques. Or perhaps that's the work of some scared gear. That's just my shadow clone jutsu, it's a forbidden technique I picked up when I was about 13. There's a slightly embarrassing story behind how that happened, but let's not talk too much about my home dimension. Naruto explained with a small grin and booming laugh, while extending his hands outward. Instead let's enjoy a nice home-cooked meal. After all Asia had me make my best dish in rather large portions. Now seeing we have company I know why that was. Asia shrugged her shoulders. Ya got me there daddy. Naruto nodded and looked out to the table. Well everyone please enjoy my sage-style ramen. Ramen? Rias asked in confusion. It's that a rather mundane and simple food. Yes, from my understanding it's a cheap option for humans. Am I correct in my understanding? Venelana asked politely. And just what is sage style? Akano asked in an apprehensive voice. Naruto grinned and folded his arms. You know what, take off your lids and just take a small whiff. Doing as they were told, all 5 devils slowly removed the lids as instructed, which resulted in a plume of steam and aromas to overtake everyone at the table, forcing a large smile on Naruto's face as he watched all 5 devils literally be taken back by the sheer force of the scent of his cooking. "Oh. Hoo-ho." Venelana gasped out in a raspy voice, as just the scent of the ramen alone was enough to completely steal the air from her lungs and force her mouth to salivate in anticipation to get just one taste of the dish before her. Rias, who was trembling from head to toe, saw her mother's condition and could see the woman's face was in absolute bliss. Meanwhile, to her side, Akane wasn't faring much better, as her sadistic side began to surface and she looked on the verge of something that made Issei grin perversely. Safe to say the devils altogether were not prepared for the barrage of aromas from Naruto's cooking. Though the same could be said for the other side of the table, as Griselda, Zenobia and Issei had also revealed their ramen and despite having Naruto's cooking before were not ready for his best dish at all. "So is no one besides my sweet little Asia going to taste my ramen?" Naruto asked with a light-hearted laugh, while everyone looked to the youngest Uzumaki, who was calmly and elegantly eating her father's ramen before her like it was absolutely normal. "It's delightful as always, Daddy," Asia complimented, as the young trickster was accustomed to her father's cooking from being raised by the man. So her reaction wasn't as exaggerated as the rest of the table by any means. Venelana and Rias both looked across the table to Asia, thinking that if the young blonde was able to handle the ramen so easily, maybe their first reaction was too much. Though as they slowly brought the noodles to their mouths they stopped and looked between each other, while the entire table stopped and waited for the mother and daughter to take a bite. "If I didn't know any better I would say you two seem nervous." Asia spoke up with a dark laugh and shit-eating grin. "I know. Why don't all 5 of our guests take a bite together to share the reaction?" "We can do that," Akane replied in a husky voice, while she gazed at the ramen with lust-filled eyes. Asia giggled and watched all 5 devils lift the food in their mouths, while her eyes spun into her Sharingan, considering she wanted to make sure to burn this next moment into her memory. "Ah." The collective group of devils moaned in complete and utter bliss as their eyes rolled back in their heads, while to Issei's immeasurable joy completely lost every single shred of their clothing in one bite. "I've never wanted to learn to cook more than I do now." Issei gasped in awe, as he saw every female except for Asia in the complete nude. However, his perverted mind was distracted by the absolute radiant bowl of noodles before him. So much so that he halted his little peep show to take a bite for himself, only to explode out of his clothing and completely forget about the table filled with naked women. Showing Naruto's cooking was so intense that it overpowered Issei's perverted thoughts and actions. How can anyone create something so perfect?" Venelana asked in a low whimper, while she looked directly at Naruto with deep rapid breathing. "Well." Naruto trailed off, as he tried to avert his eyes away from the devil. Unfortunately he wasn't faring all too well considering how captivatingly beautiful Venelana truly was. "I had my clones gather some rather rare local ingredients from different locations around the globe." Naruto then stopped for a moment and took a hard swallow, as Venelana was leaning closer and closer into his personal space. "So fresh rare ingredients are your secret?" Venelana asked softly, while she kept getting closer and closer to Naruto. Well, not exactly." Naruto began in a nervous voice, as he moved his eyes to the side. Unfortunately, that allowed him to see Griselda, who was practically mirroring Venelana's advances, forcing Naruto to be entrapped between the two beautiful and naked females. Why, you see, I also had extra clones gather senjutsu from different places as well. Let me explain a little. Senjutsu is something from my dimension and is essentially the life force of the nature around us. So what you're tasting is not just rare ingredients I've hand-selected, but also the essence and life force of some of the most beautiful and radiant places on this planet that I transferred into each and every ingredient I used. It's the only way to capture so many different flavors and sensations into one dish. Senjutsu is the heart and soul of my sage-style ramen. Incredible. Venelana gasped in admiration, while she slowly smiled and looked over Naruto. You're quite an interesting man and a phenomenal chef. I can agree to that. Griselda chimed in, which earned Naruto's attention on her. After all, you're a man capable of things like no other. Your ramen is just one example of many. Naruto smiled with a small blush and slightly tilted his head. Thank you, Griselda, and you as well, Venelana. I appreciate both your words, but are any of you going to put your clothes back on? Oh, my apologies. Venelana began softly, while she, along with everyone else as the table began to quickly redress themselves in a hurry. Though Naruto did catch the little white-haired devil Koneko looking at him with a rather odd look. One that Naruto didn't understand, but before Naruto could question if something was wrong, Issei suddenly spoke up. Dad, this ramen is amazing, but I gotta know something that's been bugging me all day. Well, maybe I can help place you at ease, Naruto offered. Issei grinned at the man. Well, Lady Asia said we were going to the underworld. So what exactly is going on? That's a wonderful question, Issei, and helps me bring up an important topic. Naruto began with a smile, while holding a hand out to Rias. You see, little Rias here is currently forced into a marriage contract with a man she does not love nor she wishes to marry. So I've offered to speak on Rias' behalf and stop this marriage dead in its tracks. Hell yeah, Dad, helping hot chicks. You're such a goddamn badass. Issei complimented with vigor, which earned giggle from a few of them women at the table. Yes, for once Issei said something that earned a positive reaction from a woman. Well, yes, but according to Venelana, the best way to null this marriage is for both parties to agree to disband this marriage. However, the marriage was formed by the fathers of the potential bride and groom. Unfortunately, one side won't agree to dissolve the agreement, and the other, being the former Lord Gremory, has passed away some time ago. Meaning that the most easy and peaceful solution is off the table. Damn. Issei mumbled softly. But there is a second choice. Venelana spoke up with a firm tone. That being a rating game where the stakes are whoever wins has control over the marriage contract. Sadly, Rias has a rather small peerage and no experience within a rating game. Meanwhile, her fiancé Riza Phoenix is not only a very powerful devil, but also very well decorated with rating game victories. But who said Rias has to be the one to challenge him? We just need someone powerful to beat him after all. Asia began with a large smirk, while folding her arms confidently. See where this is going? Oh, totally. Issei yelled with excitement before looking at Naruto. Dad, you could totally kick his ass, or maybe big bro Giorno can rough him up some. Naruto nodded softly. Yes, I or Giorno could easily defeat the devil in question, but we won't. The table was completely surprised, as even Asia was left with confusion. Considering she thought for sure her father was going to manhandle Riser himself. Daddy, I don't understand. If not you or Giorno, who? Asia asked. Naruto grinned and looked right at his daughter. Me and Kurama talked it over and we decided you, Issei and Zenobia will be a three-man team to fight Riser and his peerage. Of course that's only if you don't disagree with my plan. Since I would never force my children into something against their will and then would be forced to have Kurama fight instead. Venelana looked at Naruto with an ever-growing admiration, as his words struck deep with the woman. Considering his selfless love for his children was something her former husband clearly never showed for his own child. Meanwhile the rest of the table looked to Asia and waited to the blonde's response, but were quickly surprised the moment Asia began to laugh loudly. Ah, Daddy, that was very sneaky of you to place me on the spot like this. I may just have to get you back for that. Asia began in a hollow, but creepily upbeat voice. After all, I can be sneaky too, Daddy. Venelana looked at Asia with a devilish smile, as she saw potential in the girl. Griselda merely took a deep breath, as she believed Asia needed more stern parenting. Naruto on the other hand flinched backwards. Now Princess Daddy wasn't trying to be sneak. Oh, it's very okay, Daddy, I'm not upset. I'll even agree to your idea, as I know you wouldn't place me in danger. I trust you after all. Well, if Lady Asia is for fighting the devil, I'm on board. Issei declared boldly. Zenobia nodded. Yes, worst case I'll strike the devil down with my sword before he could even touch Asia. Wait, let's backtrack for a moment. Rias suddenly spoke up, while pointing at Asia. Can three humans really defeat a high-class devil? I mean, Rise's strength is the reason me and my peerage haven't challenged him. Naruto smirked and folded his arms. Trust me, those three will be more than enough. Then you'll get a good idea of just how powerful humanity is. And I promise you, Rias, that you will be free of this contract. I see. Rias mumbled softly, while bowing her head to the man. Well, I shall trust whatever solution you deem best. Naruto looked surprised at Rias finally showing him some respect, as he figured he would have to work just a little more to crack the girl's shell. Asia on the other hand merely grinned wide at the young devil. Well, I appreciate your faith in me, but I must apologize to everyone. Naruto then stood to his feet and took a small curtsy. I didn't foresee having guests at this hour and I have a few documents due on a deadline that need my immediate attention. Please don't take my absence as a feeling of intrusion and make yourselves at home. Asia is more than capable of entertaining everyone while I square a few things away. Don't worry, I'll handle everything, Daddy. Asia declared happily, which made Naruto merely nod back to his daughter. Thank you, sweetie. Watching Naruto slowly move away from his seat, Griselda reached out to the man. Would you like my assistance? Naruto smiled and patted Griselda's shoulder. No, I'm quite fine on my own. You do enough as is, Griselda. Take some time to relax and socialize. Oh, okay. The angel mumbled softly, while she watched Naruto walk away. However, her eyes were not the only pair to trail the single father as he walked away. Considering Venelana watched every single movement Naruto made until he was gone from her line of sight. Something that made Asia giggle softly, while resting her elbows onto the table. Find something you like, Lady Gremory? Asia asked with a devilish smirk. Why, yes, I have. The woman replied without any shame or embarrassment before her eyes shifted to Asia. Is that a problem? Not in the slightest. In fact, I encourage any thoughts you have about my daddy, as I think you would make a wonderful new mommy, Asia revealed while her eyes slowly drifted to Griselda, the latter of whom seemed rather flustered. Oh really? Venelana began with a rather low and happy voice. Well, that's good to hear. Asia giggled and winked at Griselda before looking back to Venelana. Just know you're not the only woman I think that way about. After all, I've already been trying to get my daddy and Griselda together, but don't let that discourage you. My end goal is to create the perfect mommy harem. So you won't be the only one chasing after my daddy's love. Oh, that's fine. My first husband had a harem of his own and that didn't bother me none. Besides, I find your father much more interesting than my previous husband, Venelana admitted before looking to her daughter with a soft expression. I hope you don't hold those words against me, Rias. Everyone looked to the girl in question, who shook her head and smiled. No, I don't hold anything against you, mother. I do love and miss father, but I cannot argue that Asia's father is a good man. After all, he is willing to help me with Riza, and that means a lot to me. Plus he has a few other impressive qualities. That he does. Venelana replied before looking to Asia with a smirk. Naruto's a very kind and noble man, and I would love to corrupt him with my devilish charms. Griselda glared at the devil with angelic fury. Naruto is a great man who will change the entire world for the better. He needs a righteous woman to walk by his side, not some temptress to sway his vision. Venelana looked right at Griselda with an eye smile. Oh, you angels are so boring, I bet you couldn't even pleasure him properly. Griselda gritted her teeth while the teenagers at the table slowly started to sink backwards away from the two. Well, everyone besides Asia, who was practically bursting with excitement. I'll have you know that being a wife extends past pleasure, which is something I'm perfectly capable of, by the way. Griselda began in a firm tone, while her white wings flapped outward. A wife must also be a helpful partner outside of the bedroom, which is Naruto's personal assistant. I cover that area perfectly by helping him on a daily basis. Oh please, in the underworld I'm well known for my business knowledge and ability to find hidden gems that have yet to be discovered. I could easily become a valuable asset to Naruto as someone who oversees all his finances and business dealings. Venelana declared in a firm fine, while smirking at Griselda. Though a lover and partner is only a fraction of a good wife, I'll have you know. The key to a perfect wife is one's capability to be a proper mother, and I have already raised 2 successful children. Griselda huffed and crossed her arms. You're not the only one who has raised children, and I've already been working on helping parent little Asia, the angel revealed as she extended her arms to the bubbly blonde. If you haven't noticed, she is somewhat of a problem child due to her father's parenting style. So she needs a firm hand to help raise her. Asia squinted her eyes and Griselda, but held her tongue. Venelana on the other hand scoffed at the angel. Asia is a fine girl who just needs some proper maternal guidance to help her into the devilish young woman she was meant to be, the flaxen-haired devil declared. Not some boring angel trying to control her. And she would be better off with you. Of course. I would shape her into a fine young woman with proper manners and a devil's desire. This is getting rather personal. Asia mumbled softly, as she watched the angel and devil argue. But we are making some wonderful breakthroughs. Maybe I should bring Daddy back down here. Griselda tightly turned her neck to the side and forced a smile at. Let's not do that. Well, why not? Asia asked with a large grin, while her eyes traveled around the room. It's turning into a hoedown throwdown and I'm loving it, and I'm sure Daddy would too. Might help him pick which one of you to take as his first wife, or at least speed things along. Venelana smiled and waved Asia off. Don't worry, child, I've decided that I'm rather interested in your father and will make him my new husband. The devil then turned to Griselda and winked. Well, that's unless he decides to only take the uptight angel for some reason. Then I would just have an affair with him, but I don't see that situation happening. Naruto is a good man and I will never leave his side. I'll be the one to become his wife, Griselda declared, while Asia merely clapped her hands and laughed. Oh, this is such fun. I do enjoy dinner and a show, but let's spice things up. The young Uzumaki began with a devilish grin and her Sharingan spinning to life. Hey Griselda. Said woman in question turned to Asia, but doing so caused her eyes to dilate and her posture to slump slightly. A reaction that surprised all the devils within the room. What did you do to her? Rias asked. A simple genjutsu that should only last for about 10 or 20 minutes. Asia explained in an offhand voice, while looking directly to Venelana with her Sharingan. Sending chills down everyone's spine as the strange pattern in the blonde's eyes made her slightly more intimidating. So tell me, Venelana, are you up for a little game? Depends on the game. The devil replied back without fear. Well, you declared you wish to become my new mommy and Griselda isn't going anywhere while in my genjutsu. So the game is rather simple. Asia began as she folded her arms over the dinner table and smirked. You have about 20 minutes max to walk upstairs and make your first move on my daddy with whatever method you deem fit. Venelana shared Asia's smirk and stood to her feet. So you're giving me a free pass, go seduce your father. I'd be disappointed if you didn't. Asia replied. Venelana stood to her feet and took a bow. Then I won't disappoint, the woman declared before walking off. Asia chuckled to herself and reached outward for a drink, but at the same time Rias looked to the girl with surprise. Is this the big part of your plan to get our parents together? Have my mom seduce your dad? No. Asia scoffed before taking a long drink from her glass of water. Then by finishing her glass she rested it back onto the table. That's rather boring and predictable. Oh, so there is more you're not sharing? Akano asked. Maybe. Asia replied with a smile, which caused Xenavia to frown. Asia, why did you lie to Lady Gremory? The blue-haired girl asked, which surprised everyone present and made Asia smirk. You and I both know that Mom has no experience with genjutsu and wouldn't be able to break out of your genjutsu so fast if at all. So you caught that bit? Asia giggled out, while patting her sister. Also thanks for keeping that to yourself till now. Wouldn't want my future mommy to catch on to my surprise. You're a good big sister, Xenavia, and I'm glad you're on my side. I'm glad as well, Xenavia admitted in a dry voice. What are you planning? Koneko asked in a slightly hostile tone. Yes, just what exactly are your plans involving my mother? Rias added in. Asia rolled her eyes. You all are incredibly slow if you're asking that. Even Issei can figure out my goal is to get my daddy together with multiple women. Starting with Venelana and Griselda. Yeah, that's totally obvious. Issei chimed in, which earned a sigh from Asia. Issei, don't speak when honestly you're just as in the dark as the devils. I was just trying to be coy, I know you're clueless as well. Right you are. The pervert admitted. Mind filling me in? Asia huffed and pointed to Rias. It all started the moment I realized you had an attractive and single mother, Rias. Right away I started thinking of ways to get your mother attracted to my daddy, but lucky for me he grabbed her attention by coming to your aid. So once I noticed her interests in my daddy rising, I asked Zenevere to extend a dinner invitation to your family. I then had my daddy prepare his best dish knowing the response it would earn from your mother. Of course I knew this dinner and the presence of your mother would also threaten Griselda, as it clearly showed that there was impressive competition for my daddy. Making both women rather competitive and rush forward in fear of losing to the other. That brings us to now, where your mother is probably trying her hardest to seduce my daddy, while thinking she has about 20 minutes to do so. When in reality she has about 5 minutes before I release my genjutsu on Griselda. That's. Akano began, but trailed off as she couldn't find the words. Rias on the other hand could. The fox was right. You're dangerous. Oh, is little Kurama talking about me behind my back again? Asia asked with a light laugh. Well, he will get his soon enough. Though I'm glad you now see what I'm capable of my sister to be. So tell me, Rias, when it comes to creating my mommy harem, are you with me or against me? Rias sunk back into her chair, as she felt an enormous pressure hold her down. Considering for once the devil found something she truly feared, and honestly it was a feeling she didn't enjoy. I'm with you, of course. That's what sisters are for, right? Asia looked excited as she jumped upward. That's wonderful, me and you are going to have so much fun. I know, let's celebrate by having a sleepover. With Naruto. Slowly going over a few reports and transactions, Naruto was unaware to the devil slowly creeping into his office. However, the moment he heard his door click shut, he looked upward to find Venelana already walking in his direction. Venelana, can I help you? Naruto asked in surprise, as he watched the woman maneuver around his desk. Then to the man's shock took a seat directly on his lap, while her arms wrapped around his neck. I just came to thank you for dinner. The devil began in a low voice, while she reached her mouth up to Naruto's ear, forcing her large breasts into his face. It was amazing. Oh, it was nothing. Naruto replied in a nervous voice, while he felt his body heaten up. I'd be happy to cook for you again. I'm sure you would. Venelana replied softly, while backing away and looking directly into the blonde's eyes. After all, you had quite the effect on me with just your cooking. It makes me curious as to what else you could do to me. I don't know what you mean. Venelana smirked and wiggled her perfect butt against the man. From what I'm feeling, I think you know exactly what I mean. The devil declared as she bit her lip. Very impressive, by the way. By my guess, you're much bigger than my first husband. Naruto was a crimson red and couldn't even think of a proper retort, but did manage to release a soft moan as he felt Venelana continue to wiggle her butt on his lap. A reaction that forced a pleased grin from the devil. Speaking of my former husband, I have to extend another thank you. I mean, you don't even have to bother, but you insist on helping fix the mess he created. Venelana began, while moving to where she was chest to chest with Naruto and her hands were clamped onto his shoulders. I always resented him for selling our daughter off and saying it was for the better of the devil race. I knew it was bullshit, as Rias could easily find someone on her own to marry, but instead her father sold her in a contract for what? More land and wealth. Just because that's how we got married doesn't mean our daughter had to share the same fate. Naruto's eyes widened as he felt Venelana massage his shoulders. I didn't know that about you. Venelana nodded. It was something I lived with and accepted. Thinking it was normal to live in a loveless marriage with a man who couldn't even please me. I lived with the fact that the father of my children cared more about wealth and woman than the happiness of his own daughter. I accepted all of that for years. Venelana. Naruto mumbled softly, as he could sense a mixture of emotions swelling within the woman. Then my husband died and I eventually met a real man. A man who would die for his family and place their happiness above his own. A man who could please me with his cooking alone. A man who is someone I would have left my husband for if he hadn't died. Venelana slightly leaned forward and smiled, her face close enough for Naruto to feel her breath. You showed me and my family more kindness and compassion in one day than my husband did in years of marriage. So for that I have to properly thank you. Naruto's heartbeat began to rise as he saw Venelana move forward for a kiss. Thought moments before she could make contact, the door to Naruto's office flung open. Stop right there. Griselda yelled loudly, which caused Venelana to groan in annoyance. That was quick. Venelana began as she glanced back to the angel. Mind leaving? We were about to have sex. Wait, what? Naruto blurted out in shock. I'm not going anywhere. Griselda replied in a stern voice, while crossing her arms. Venelana giggled. So are you gonna watch then or join on the fun? I don't mind either way. Griselda turned completely red. That's a completely appalling and vile offer. Do I get a say in this? Naruto spoke up softly, but neither woman was listening to him. Oh, you angels are all the same. Boring and have no sense of experimentation. And all you devils and sick and evil. Hey daddy. Asia called out, as she appeared in the doorway, causing the man to instantly use the substitution jutsu to swap his body with Griselda's, leaving the angel being straddled by the devil and Naruto standing nervously in the middle of the room. Having fun. Something like that. Naruto croaked out in a nervous voice, while his face was red. Can daddy help you? Oh, I just wanted to tell you that me and Rias thought since we are all going to the underworld tomorrow that the Gremory household should stay the night. I can tell from whatever is going on in here that Lady Gremory wouldn't have any problems sleeping with you and Griselda tonight. Asia declared, which made Venelana turn around and smile. That would be fine by me. The devil replied, which made Asia smile. Perfect. Well, I'll leave you to whatever adults do. Asia said as she skipped out of the room. Asia, wait. Naruto called out as he chased after his daughter. Considering he didn't agree to anything yet. Venelana laughed as she was left alone with Griselda. That little child is quite cunning. Yes, she is, but could you please get off me? The angel asked in an annoyed voice. Glancing down to Griselda, Venelana smirked. Actually, I have a better idea. Let's make a deal. A deal. Venelana nodded and trailed her fingers along Griselda's breasts. Well, we are two beautiful women after the same man. A man whose daughter's goal is to get enough women around her father to make a harem. I can also tell Asia is quite the sly devil and won't stop with just you and I. So there will be more competition for Naruto's love and affection. So why don't we combine our efforts and share Naruto? Knowing Asia, she wouldn't like that. Griselda began slowly as she tried to ignore the devil's touch. She probably wants us to fight over her father just as much as she wants us to get together with him. She might throw some wrenches in your plan. Besides, I've all but accepted that because of Asia, Naruto will have a harem of women. So I'm shooting for the spot of head wife over the harem. That's a rather ambiguous goal, but I will be head wife. After all, I oversaw my former husband's harem, which was full of rather plain and slightly above average women if I'm being honest. Asia, on the other hand, is already hand-selecting only the best, as I have to admit. Venelana stopped as she trailed her finger to the crease of Griselda's breasts. You might be just as stunning as I am, but still lack the nerves it takes to oversee a harem of other women. Why you devil? Griselda stammered nervously, which only made Venelana's smirk grow. That is what I am, but you're so stern with the children and Naruto. However, you're already melting under my pressure. So that should show you which one of us is cut out to be at the top of the harem. Venelana declared softly while removing her hand from Griselda. Though I promise you that if you work with me you'll be the number 2 right behind me. What do you say? Okay, I'll agree to that. Griselda mumbled softly. Venelana grinned. Told you I was good at business. Now let's seal our alliance with a kiss. The devil declared, as she leaned forward to kiss the shocked angel. However, before the two women's lips could meet, Venelana giggled and backed away. Just kidding, we'll save the sexy girl on girl for when Naruto is watching. Speaking of which, we should talk strategy, because I feel you were onto something early when you mentioned Asia. Considering she's more of a devil than I am and probably has something in store for both of us. Well, what do we do then? You listen to the head wife, that's what. Venelana began, as she leaned forward and started to whisper in Griselda's ear. The next morning with Giorno. Yawning softly, the second in command slightly expanded his chest to stretch, but he found something out of the normal. Considering normally in the mornings when the man would awake he would do a few stretches to help wake himself. However, this time Giorno felt an unfamiliar heaviness against his chest. So slowly opening his eyes, Giorno was met with a familiar pair of eyes, but instead of those eyes being on the cat he had adopted, they were on the face of a beautiful black-haired woman whose large bare chest was currently pressed against his own. Meanwhile, the rest of her body, which he assumed was nude as well, was tucked under his blanket. NYA. Good morning, cutie. The woman teased, while she pulled herself closer to Giorno. It's time for breakfast. What the fuck? Chapter end.
Oh, you're in the end. That's crazy. Okay. Like and subscribe for more what ifs. If you like this video, please comment 3 hearts. And also you can say the fanfic that you want. If you want to check out the author, you can see in the description below. You can check out the author and enjoy some more fan fiction. So, gentlemen, I'm out. Peace.